tight, fix the collar, check the nose. Shit, we're live already. What's going on? It is MJT Football. I'm your host, Tony Tucker. I'm joined by Joe Morley. NFL Mike is not with us today, but he will be back at some point. We have a great show prepared for you. Question mark. We're talking Cowboys, Texans, Lions, and we'll get into some other NFL news. And as always, the chat is open, and we love to talk football with people. As we always say, we're three friends talking football, but we're always looking for a fourth, so hit the subscribe button. Before we play our little opening music, I just want to remind everybody, public service announcement, subscribe to Lamar Jackson's YouTube channel. I can't wait.
Always love that music. And you look good today, Tony. You look very good today. I don't know what you were trying to get all ready for the show for, but you looked fantastic.
My collar was a little messed up. I realized I've been a little frazzled. My son got a job. Lots of things happening. He got a 16-year-old about to join the world. What's going on, Khalil? Saying hi a lot. Khalil, we see you. What's going on?
Khalil with the I don't know how many times, 10 times high to us, and that's why I did the double hand wave to him. But for what is today? Monday? For a Monday morning or Monday day, it's been pretty good in the NFL. Tony, it was a little quiet during free agency. Now picked up just a little bit more, which you like. This is what you would consider the second wave of free agency. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think we got there when we saw certain players taking discounts or returning to places like Jordan Poyer going back. Like I heard a snippet from his press conference and he's like, yeah, I said what I said about the taxes in New York and I meant it. I was just telling the truth. I'm just keeping it a buck for everybody to let you know that, yes, I love Buffalo and I love playing here. But at the same time, it is crazy the amount of taxes you have to pay when you live in California or New York. But he went back there on a 2-year deal. Then we saw somebody like Mike Gesicki take less money than we thought going to the Patriots. Another good signing there. And now we are to the part where, we're going to talk about Dalton Schultz and where he ended up. I forgot to say at the top of the show, if you're listening to the audio version of this, we are extremely grateful for that. But head on over to YouTube and type in MJT Football, hit the subscribe, notification bell so you can get in these comments like our friend Johnny Talk Sports, right? Comes in all the time, played in our fantasy football league last year, and that could be you. You could play with us, idiots, and try and win a fantasy championship. Oh,
yeah.
Do you want to answer the question from Khalil before we start the topics here?
Khalil asking, do you like Justin Jefferson? Like him, or do I just like his play?
I don't know. I'll go with the second part of it. And Justin Jefferson is my favorite wide receiver in the NFL right now. I think that I just think the youth that's on his side, the ability that he's shown, I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. I know I got you guys all fired up last year when I was sticking up for Cooper Kupp. Remember me and Mike got into a fight?
Yeah.
I was sticking up for Cooper Kupp.
Well, I like Justin Jefferson. As you know, I picked him to be the offensive player of the year last year, and he just went out there and did it. Johnny, we're going to get into that in a few seconds. I know Tony's kind of mad about it, but yeah, we might get into that in just a few seconds.
Au contraire, mon frère. That's French for to the contrary, my brother. We'll start there. We'll start with the Texans. And I said this going in. We were talking about the coaching vacancies. I said, it's hard to say this with a straight face, but the Texans had the second best situation, in my opinion, just based on the division, the amount of draft picks they had, the fact that they had a number 2 overall pick, and it was a decent quarterback class. And then you have the Panthers moving ahead of them, and they didn't have to move up anywhere or do anything to make sure that they're going to get one of these 2 QBs. And then DeMeco Ryans and the staff and the new general manager and they're building a squad, in my opinion. Like, they kept Laramie Tunsil, signed him to what, 3 years, $75 million. Good for Laramie. Get some money, Laramie. They get a pick for Brandon Cooks. We'll be talking about the Cowboys later in the show. And then Dalton Schultz was the news that broke today. And I saw it, and I was like, 1 year deal for him. What was it? 1 year, $9 million, $10 million?
Yeah. It was up to $9 million.
Yeah. This is, to me, that's a great deal for Dalton Schultz. And there's the rumors out there that he maybe overplayed his hand, could have made more money somewhere else or whatever. But I just think if you're bringing in a rookie quarterback, why not have a veteran tight end for at least his first year there that is going to be able to be a nice, easy target for him? Dalton Schultz is good at getting open. He's good in the red zone. He's good in the middle of the field. I wouldn't say he's an outstanding blocker, but like, why wouldn't you want to have a situation where you might have CJ Stroud or Bryce Young looking for like some sort of security over the middle, and then you look up and you see Dalton Schultz?
Yeah, and we talked about this at the end of last show or the show before, where I told you I wanted to give a shout out to the Houston Texans of what they were doing quietly in this offseason. And we were talking about how they signed Jimmy Ward and a couple of the other guys, right? Sheldon Rankins, a couple of those other guys to go along with the players they already had. Jerry Hughes is still down there, right? So he's still already calling the shots. Remember when they were down in that game and he got them fired up, come back? So they have some veteran leaderships down there. They adding with some of these youngsters, and like you said, and then they're going to add more in the draft. But Mike, as soon as we were talking about this in our group text between me, you, and Mike was telling us, like, look at the youth that they now have on offense down there in Houston that they can grow together. And once, it doesn't matter which quarterback you put in there. You could put Bryce Young, you could put CJ Stroud, but you put one of those two in there, you're automatically looking at the offense like, wow, this is a good team ready to go. The D'Amico Ryan's quietly over there doing his thing. Houston Texans, if you're a Houston Texans fan, you got to be happy because next year I don't see the Houston Texans drafting number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, or 5. They're going to be out of the top 5 next year.
Bold take. I'm actually with you on this one. I think they're going to win enough games, and there's going to be enough teams that I think aren't necessarily tanking, but they're playing for the future. I think there's enough of those teams that are fringe and don't necessarily have the depth. If they experience even minimal injuries, aren't going to really have the roster in place to compete. I like that Mike says Laramie Tunsil is an inspiration. I would imagine, isn't he the one who got the video of the gas mask, like smoking a bunch of weed right before the draft, and the man has still managed to make hundreds of millions of dollars?
I didn't get into the story, Tony. I didn't really look into it, but there's something about Tunsil's agent or somebody that negotiated the deal for Tunsil right now. Is he's supposed to be banned from the NFL? Like the NFL has like said not to work with them, but the Texans said, screw it, we're getting our deal done with our guy, and they went with the guy anyways. I have to look more into it, but there's something else more with that Laramie Tunsil deal.
Oh, well, I did not hear that. I'm interested to know that, but good. It doesn't really matter. Laramie Tunsil, this is a good spot. You want to have that figured out. That's the other reason why I'm saying the Texans are building a squad, because when you have that tackle in place, that's a good thing for a rookie QB. Then you bring in the tight end. They've got nice receivers out there, and they can even go get another young receiver in the second, third round of this draft if they want to continue to build. But they're going to have John Mechie out there with Nico Collins. Moore put some nice
Noah Brown. They signed Noah Brown too this offseason.
Noah Brown too. Yeah, Bobby Trees, another veteran presence.
Yeah, so I'm liking everything they got over there. It's not like they're hurting over there for wide receiver. And now it looks like they can just go. They can go in the draft and just play their game. Just, hey, if this guy falls to us, we get this guy. Can we say that Tunsil has built basically 2 franchises now? That he's been the corner piece for the Houston Texans for the last couple of years of what they've been building up, but he also built the Miami Dolphins into what they are now.
They did get a nice nice group of picks for him. That's why somebody was saying that the other day that DeAndre Hopkins might go to the Patriots. And I was like, hold on a second. They just brought back Bill O'Brien. Like, why would he go to the Patriots? Like, that didn't make any
It was
sense.
all part of the plan, Tony.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien said, I'm going to ship you on to Arizona. I'm going to get fired. I'll be back in New England in a couple of years. You come on over.
Good. Yeah, good luck with that one working out.
It's all Bill O'Brien getting smart dude, smart guy.
Playing the long game, all to be the OC back in New England again. That the clip, one of you guys, or the snippet from Twitter that you guys sent me too, we should have talked about that. I should have put that in the rundown. But that some of the Patriots players preferred Bailey Zappi over him, and then and now I'm starting to hear a few reports here and there that keep an eye on the Patriots for the Lamar Jackson thing. It's like, oh wow, I would not want to see Bill Belichick with Lamar Jackson and in a running game and a defense. That's just not something I want to see. The Patriots were at the top long enough. They don't need Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, they don't need Lamar Jackson. And I don't know, are we off the Texans now? Because I can get into some Lamar Jackson talk, but we won't.
Yes, we'll save that for the end of the show. I just want to say this about the Houston Texans. We've seen over the last couple of years the Bengals make a big turnaround. We saw the Jaguars make a big turnaround. And I think a lot of times it has to do with the division that you're in. And I think that this division presents itself nicely because the Jaguars this year are going to have to play with expectations, which is tougher. And then the Titans seem to be, at least in somewhat of a retooling period. I don't think it's a full-on rebuild. And then you got the Colts. Unless the Colts get in on the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes, I don't think the Colts are really any threat. So the Texans could be that team this year that wins between 7 and 9 games. That seemed like more of a dumpster fire the year before.
And the rebuilds, take all that rebuild shit and shove it somewhere else because I don't like rebuilds, Tony, and I don't listen to rebuilds because we've seen so many teams get a brand new coach, turn it around within a year or two. Why do teams feel like they have to completely come in there, gut a whole team, and then go, these are my guys now? No, you saw it. Look what Jacksonville just did last year. You said they took Urban Meyer's guys and turned it around. You don't need a complete rebuild. Texans had a good enough pieces here and there where DeMeco Ryans brings in 2 or 3 players, brings in veteran leadership, and puts his system in. I think they should be winning. Detroit Lions. It didn't take the Lions a lot to we've seen the history in the Lions. It didn't take Campbell, him destroying the whole team, to go, okay, here it is. No, he brought in a couple guys here and there. Within 2 seasons, they're already competing with everybody else. The complete rebuild is I think outdated. You need to find a way to build your team and be competitive from the first day that your head coach takes over. No more do these head coaches get passes their first or second year. You don't get that luxury anymore as a head coach to be like, well, in 4 years from now, we're going to be a great team, Tony. In 4 years, when I got my guys, no, you don't get that no more. You need to come in and at least be competitive day one of the first day that you're on that job.
Yeah, I think that sometimes the coaches hope that there's some sort of rebuilding nonsense because it kind of buys them a year. But there's a comment up there from Stephen Armstrong where he says, look at Harrison and my Panthers. Might be looking dangerous. Based on what? You got a 33-year-old wide receiver, you brought in Miles Sanders. I don't understand what the plan is because the Texans, I saw a report, have narrowed it down to multiple QBs that they like. They didn't know that they which one that they even wanted before they traded for the number 1 pick, before they traded away DJ Moore, who's
I'm not hating on the Panthers. Panthers knew that they had a need at quarterback, Tony. So did they make the trade? Yes. They made the trade without knowing what the hell they were doing, without knowing what quarterback, but they knew they needed a quarterback, and now they can make that decision easier. And now they should have known who they wanted to do before they went up there. But it makes it easier because now you go, okay, now we're on the clock. Now look at who you want. Now pick the right guy. And I think that's okay. I'm okay with that. What I'm liking is the Panthers division, the NFC South, is all of them realize, hey, we were shitty last year. We were bad last year. We were the laughing stock of the NFC last year. And now The Falcons are out there making moves. The Saints are out there making moves. Even the Bucks picking up Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, was a good thing. And now the Panthers. I think all four of those teams are realizing, like, hey, our division was so bad last year. Any one of us could take it this year, and they're all making moves, and I'm liking it. And you know what, Tony? Early prediction, early hot take right now from Joe Morley. Early hot take, 3 teams from that division make the playoffs next year.
That is ridiculous and not going to happen. I will allow my kids to slam a pie in my face if 3 teams from the NFC South make it in the playoffs next year.
We need the MJT editor to cut that out, save it up for the season, and we need that.
Yes. Pie to the face. That is ridiculous. The Falcons are going to make the playoffs because they're going to win that division next year. I'm just glad in that, like, since we're on the NFC North or the NFC South, I'm sorry, that division is not going to have Kyle Trask as a starter. Like, Kyle Trask wasn't even Brady's backup last year. He was Blaine Gabbert's backup. And if that is the hierarchy and what they are, like, I'm glad they brought in Baker Mayfield because at least that'll be interesting for a few weeks. Bookmark. There it is. Appreciate it. We all know.
Get the pie ready, kids. Get the pie ready.
You alluded to Dan Campbell and all of the wonderful things that he's doing up there in the Motor City. Dan Campbell, and they got a 1-year deal done with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They brought in Sutton and the other cornerback. I'm forgetting his name. Mosley. So that's
in. There's something else they brought in, but yeah, they're making moves up there, and you know that you and I and Mike had that show last time where we were talking about underrated free agent signings, and I already brought up the cornerbacks. And then they had to go and get the safety. They had to be like, "Hey, Joe, shut up for a second because we're not done." And the Detroit Lions. This is what I pictured, Tony. I pictured Aaron Glenn walking into the offseason meetings this year and kind of being like Mike Singletary, right? You got to get me a whole new crew. Can't win with them. Can't do it. Can't win. Can't play with them. Can't win with them. Get me a whole new crew of defensive backs, and they went out and did it. So I'm liking everything about the Detroit Lions, and they realized, Tony, like, hey, what'd they go 9-8 last year? 8-9 right there. They realized, like, hey, we're right here. Our division is getting shittier and worse, and we're coming up. We're the up and coming team. They don't want to be the underdogs no more. They want to be the top dogs.
Yeah, I want winners. That was a great speech from Mike Singletary, an all-time. We should get that clipped up as a sound drop here because that's fantastic. I do think that the Lions are in a great position. They went out and got these 2 cornerbacks, and even though they had the burst from James Houston to go along with Aiden Hutchinson last year, now all of a sudden that they bring in another pass rusher there, that defense is looking really nice for Aaron Glenn. And I think that the offense took the big step forward last year. And as much as people want to clown on Jared Goff, like, and I get it, he's an easy target. You know, it's kind of like making fun of the Kardashians. I think he's successful. Like, he's been to a Super Bowl. You can say that it was the Rams defense or it was Sean McVay or whatever, but it's still, you got to play in those big games, get it done, not mess it up, and still find ways to be successful and dynamic. And we've seen Jared Goff have success in the league, and he went on the road in the last week of the season with nothing on the line to make the playoffs and played pretty well in Lambeau Field to put an end to Aaron Rodgers' career in Lambeau, or at least we think he did. So I like where the Lions are headed. The more that they put this team together, this is probably the team I'm going to pick to win this division. I don't think the Bears have done enough to make that big of a leap yet. And I'm interested to see, like, I think the Packers might actually be a decent squad. And also I'm just excited for the first time ever that I'll be able to cheer for the Packers in a football game for the first time in 15 years.
Tony, can you imagine whatever they've already added all this now, right? Now they have the number 6 pick in the draft. If Will Anderson falls to them, or they could just sit there and take Van Ness or somebody else to go on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, this defense is going to be going after him. Mike said the Lions are doing good, and that's from a Dan Campbell doubter. And look, I said the Lions were going to win 10 games. Last year I was 1 game off, and you guys made fun of me for everything I said about them. But look, ever since day one, Dan Campbell said he was going to bite off kneecaps. Kneecaps have been coming off in the NFL when you play the Detroit Lions.
I do agree with that. I think that he's come in there and definitely torn some people's patella tendons off viciously. The Lions play a very rugged style game, and I think they want to make it even more rugged. That, to me, is part of the reason that they brought in David Montgomery, right? It doesn't quite make sense why they didn't bring back Jamal Williams, but even in Jamal Williams' press conference, he said he didn't get the vibe like they wanted him back for some reason, which I don't fully understand that. But I think if you are going to play that style of football and you want to play, you can't just go start the season with DeAndre Swift or a rookie or something. They also brought back Craig Reynolds, who's a good depth running back. Like, he has moments and bursts and he runs really hard. So they're in a good spot, the Lions. But when I saw them bringing in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I was like, oh, this is for real a team that's going to compete on all levels. Like, if the defense can be good and can force a lot of field goals, I think the offensive line can take another step. Ben Johnson, year 3 or whatever, running this offense. This could be a big year for the Lions. Plus, they're getting Jameson Williams on the other side too, so maybe some more big play abilities if he's healthy. Yes, woof. They're gonna get. They're gonna get a tight end too. They're gonna get a tight end that Dan Campbell like obsessed with.
You have to look at the Lions going of everything before pre-draft, everything before anything going on. You have to look at the Lions as a top team going into the NFC conference next year.
I would agree. I would say so. Real quick, just between the two of us, like I could make a real argument for Jared Goff being the number 2 quarterback in the NFC right now. Like, I would go Jalen Hurts to me is number 1. I think he's the best one. But then if you went down after it, and I told you got to rank Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins.
Mike, if Mike's listening right now, he's going to go off on you because he loves Dak Prescott.
And that's fine. And he can do that from wherever he's at. He's too good to hang out with us and talk about football today. But you got Derek Carr, you got Dak Prescott, you got Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff. Like, I mean, it's really just a lot of quarterbacks that people doubt, or people, when you rank quarterbacks, they're all sort of in that 12 to 18 range that's in the NFC. You look around, it's not Baker Mayfield. We're not exactly sure who's going to be the quarterback for Atlanta. It's not Sam Howell. It's not Danny Dimes. Like, you just start looking around the NFC. It's like maybe Matthew Stafford's still in that conversation, probably. Kyler Murray's not going to be starting the season. We don't know who the quarterback is for the 49ers. I could make a strong argument that the number 2 quarterback headed in the NFC headed into the season is Jared Goff. Yeah,
because if Matthew Stafford was 100% healthy and not injury and not, coming off an injury season, then maybe I rank him still number 1, number 2. But we're looking at the full picture of him older up there, and now Matthew Stafford, it might not become back. So yeah, Jared Goff is right there, Tony. And even if he's not number 1 or number 2, he's number 3. And that's the only other guy I would think that you could put above him is Matthew Stafford, because everybody else, Dak, Kyler Murray, Carr, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, they're just like, okay. But then you take Goff's overall resume and what he's been doing, and you go, hey, just lay it on the table, and you can't fight it. You can't fight what Jared Goff is doing. So Jared Goff is out there doing his thing. You know what I was doing.
I know exactly what you're doing.
But I'm just saying,
made a loud thump too. That's quite a resume that he just laid on the table right there, Jared.
And it is. I mean, you can't take that Super Bowl appearance away from Jared Goff. No matter what you think about him, he was there. He led the team there. So you got to like it. And then I don't know. I told you guys when Jared Goff was going to Detroit, don't sleep on him, and everybody just laughed at it. And he's up there proving it wrong. Detroit Lions, guys. I can't believe we're spending this much time talking about the Detroit Lions. Like, did you ever think about this a couple years ago? Like, before, when Dan Campbell took his introductory conference, we were like, how long is this going to last? Is he going to do it? And we loved it. We loved what Dan Campbell was spitting, but we've seen Detroit coaches and everything in Detroit. And now 2 years later, we're like, Detroit Lions. And we're like buying into it right now.
I love it. This is for my papa right here. 93 years old, never seen them win anything. I will say this. I think that we overrate now the initial press conference because Nick Sirianni's was pretty bad. And look what he did. Dan Campbell's was pretty outlandish. Look at what he did. So just getting up there and being, sort of head coach material, buttoned up and rah, whatever it is, like, I don't think any of that stuff really matters as much. Can you get in there? Can you rally the troops? Do they want to play hard for you every single week? Do they want to play hard for you even when things aren't going right? I think that's a big motivator. Like Nick Sirianni was not off to a good start in Philadelphia, and it turned around. They ended up making the playoffs in year one. By year two, Harry Roseman puts together one of the best off seasons that I can recall in a long time, where it felt like every piece was being filled perfectly. That's it's magical work. Let's stick in the NFC.
Well, you know what they say, Tony, in Detroit, it's hard to beat a person who never gives up. They say that, right?
It is. It's
I didn't read that from anywhere else but from Detroit.
It's a great quote. It's a quote of champions. Let's talk.
I was going to go right into it, Tony, because look, this is what Mike's saying. The NFC is wide open again. It's the Cowboys here, and then now you can go ahead.
Yeah, I texted you guys jokingly yesterday. What did I put? Packers Cowboys NFC Championship game. The Cowboys. I was all set to have the Cowboys in last place in the NFC East this year. I was fully prepared, headed in. They weren't making any moves. They don't typically spend in free agency very big. They didn't have a lot of players they were really going to sign. It seemed like Dalton Schultz was going elsewhere. And then what do you know? They come through and they start making smart moves. A 5th-round pick for Stephon Gilmore. And then, what was it, a 4th or 5th-round pick for Brandon Cooks? I forgot the – like, give me a break. And this is the part that I don't like, is I keep hearing a lot of people on TV is this revision history nonsense. Is everybody kept talking about Amari Cooper like, he doesn't have that dog in him. He quits on plays or he calls out of games. He doesn't have whatever. And then as soon as they don't have Amari, they start bashing him. Like, they're like, well, Amari Cooper was better than Brandon Cooks is now. Sure, he is. But you know who we never doubt about quitting? Brandon Cooks. Like, I've never heard anybody go, this guy, all Brandon Cooks does is produce, puts up, like 6 1,000-yard seasons. It is a little weird that he keeps getting traded. I think this is like the 4th, 5th time he's been traded. So it's a little weird that nobody wants to love him. But as long as he keeps getting paid, he's played in Super Bowls before. He's had an amazing career. And I just think that this is a great spot for him, Joe. This is because CeeDee's the number 1 receiver, which means your number 2 is Brandon Cooks. That knocks Michael Gallup down to a number 3 option. Like, I think that what they've been able to do in Dallas, just these 2 trade moves, bringing in veterans, having 2 solid wide receivers, 2 solid DBs, they still have a ton of ability to go get after the passer. I hate to say it, Joe, but I think the Dallas Cowboys are having a great offseason by just making 2 trades to bring in veterans that are real producers.
Well, they don't really have to do much, Tony. Like, the Eagles are losing players left and right. Washington is Washington, and New York is spending all their money on Danny Dimes, right? So they just got to keep their team to compact, put 1 or 2 more players in there, and they should be competing. Remember, Dallas Cowboys aren't out there to win a Super Bowl. They're just out there to win the division and make the playoffs and make the fans happy. They're not out there for a Super Bowl. They're not out there to win a Super Bowl. But I like it. But why bring in Brandon Cooks if Mike McCarthy just wants to run the goddamn ball, Tony? I just want to run the damn ball. Run the ball. And you bring in wide receivers. I don't get – I mean, I understand you needed it. Like, after you traded Amari Cooper, you're like, oh, crap. We did need that extra wide receiver because Michael Gallup doesn't stay on the damn field. So you go out there and you get Brandon Cooks. And I like Cooks. And I was laughing. I was trying to find it right now, but I couldn't find it. How many draft picks that he's brought in for teams. And I think he's been traded for multiple first-round picks, a couple second-round picks, and a third and a fourth. So he's been traded a lot. And he's been on some really good teams, played with some really good quarterbacks. And I think he's a great addition. I think he would have been a great addition on any team. So I like him. But, yeah, if Dallas Cowboys are more committed to running the damn ball, which I don't think they are because I think that was more bullshit because of the way that they're showing it, I think they're going to be a more passing team still with Dak, but especially bringing these weapons. But I like it, Tony. And when you bring in Stephon Gilmore, he's not the guy that we all know from a couple years ago, but he's a solid veteran that can make the plays and can help shut down the defense, and that's what the Dallas Cowboys do. The Dallas Cowboys aren't going to come out here. They don't want to come out here and blow you out 30, and have a shootout like 30-28 or something like that. They want to come out here and just run the ball, and they want to play shutdown defense, and they want close games like 13-16, something like that.
So if you got Dan Quinn there, and he's trying to put something together like what he had with the Legion to Boom, right? Where you got two really solid corners on that team where they had, who was it? Browner on one side and Sherman on the other. And then they had Cam Chancellor. They brought back the Cowboys brought back their safety this year. They've got great pass rushers and linebacker play. Because they brought back Leighton Vander Esch, the Wolf Hunter. Micah Parsons is phenomenal. And then you got DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side. Like, Dan Quinn really has tried to duplicate what he built in Seattle. And that's like, I think that even though you lose a step, when you are a great player, just because you lose a little bit of that, you've also gained so much knowledge. And so you are still just that much. Your savvy goes up as your athletic ability declines, but you never really lose a step. Because there were several games last year where people tried Stephon Gilmore thinking like, oh, well, he's going to be late on this, he's going to be whatever. And he messed them up. Like, he went upside their head and was like, try it again. And then I'm going to pick the ball off. Try it again. I'm going to get a pass breakup. Like, he's still a solid player. And now going into a good defense. I'm going to say this lastly about the Cowboys, because I think a lot of people have been saying, well, is Bijan Robinson really going to fall the first round? Cowboys, the one spot I think they need to figure out is the running back. And I don't know that they think Tony Pollard is a workhorse back, because they certainly didn't make the move to him as the workhorse when Zeke was still there, even though Tony Pollard was more productive. So in the first round, could there be a situation where the Cowboys maybe trade up, find a way to get into the mid-teens and make sure that they secure the Longhorns' standout running back, and they replace Zeke with another first-round running back? Because it's not like they did this 7 years ago when they drafted Zeke out of Ohio State. So that's a place I could see him going and having a ton of success. But they also need help on the offensive line, so who knows? Wait, did you mute your microphone? Yes, you did.
Oh, yeah, I always mute it because I'm listening to you, Tony. I want to hear the words that come out of your mouth and just let it soak inside my brain.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I usually mute it when Mike's talking just because I try to ignore him, but that's muting my speakers.
Shots fired.
He's not here to defend himself, so I can talk all I want.
That's what you get, Mike. That's what you get for not showing up, punk.
You actually look like you're like in a suit, like right now. Like, I know what you're wearing, but it actually looks like you're in a suit. Like, if people are tuning in, they're like, "Damn, Tony got dressed up for this show."
Cool. Make it a little more official. There we go. Love it.
Yeah. If you guys are listening to the podcast, you're missing out because Tony is dancing and doing all kinds of stuff. And you're missing out. Come on over. If you guys are watching and you guys are new to the program, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It's right there below Tony's face. Look at that. Oops, that's simple.
Dink, Dink. Whoops. I always mess it up. I can never know which way it's going to go. Are you ready to talk? You ready to run down other headlines, news? Joe Morley's Nuggets.
Of course. Here's big news, Tony, and Mike might like this out there in Mike land, wherever he's at. Former NFL quarterback and free agent still right now, Cam Newton, has said that he came out and announced that he will be throwing at the Alabama Pro Day in a couple days. So if you want to watch Cam Newton, see if he still got it, because remember, 32 other bleeps aren't better than him.
That's interesting. I feel like it's a little late in the game, but also here's the thing. If there's an injury in the preseason and he shows nicely here, because everybody kind of knows what Cam is capable of, but they want to make sure that he hasn't fully lost a step. If there is a problem, an injury of some sort, and that's the last thing they see is him having a really good showing at the Alabama Pro Day, they'll be able to say like, oh, this is a good veteran option for us to bring in and still maybe compete for a couple of weeks. So good for Cam. I like this news.
Yeah. Damian Harris, former Patriots running back, has signed with the Buffalo Bills. I like that move. I do.
This is just aggravating because I'm sure he probably got like $2 million or something, like not that much money. And I mean, not that much for NFL people. $2 million for me. I will take $2 million. Anybody listening who's looking for somebody they want to hire for $2 million, I'm available.
I'm available for $1 million, so I'm cheaper than Tony. So
yes, but I'm kinder and nicer. Those are the same things. Let me just say this about Damian Harris. He will be as effective as they are willing to run the football, because that's been the issue. Is like we always look around and we go, wait, why doesn't Buffalo run the football more? Oh, they are running the football, but they're running it with their $66 million a year quarterback or whatever. That's not the answer that they need. So it'd be nice to see Buffalo get some offensive linemen in front of them, right? And get out there and hand the ball to Damian Williams 12 to 14 times a game and see what he can do, especially if you're trying to put away a 10-point lead. I think this is a good one. Hopefully those hamstrings. Stretch, Damian. Stretch those quads so you don't get any injuries.
And Singletary won't be there to hold him up, as he went to the Houston Texans and signed there. Wide receiver news, Mac Hollins last year played for the Raiders, now signed with the Atlanta Falcons. He'll be a new weapon down there. And Adam Thielen, of course, we've talked about him a couple of times throughout this show. Adam Thielen went to the Carolina Panthers after he said he talked with the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Panthers, and all of them offered him deals. He said he went to the Panthers because he feels they're Super Bowl ready, Tony.
Oh, just in time. Harrison is here. Harrison, I hope you're feeling well, brother. Everybody's been getting sick. It's been going around, but you're tough. You're strong. You're young. You'll bounce back. I hope it's something serious. Let's talk about your Panthers for a second. How you feeling about trading out future Hall of Fame DJ Moore for Adam Thielen? I was looking at this the other day, and not to say that DJ Moore is or going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's putting together sort of that longevity argument, like 5 seasons, averaging 1,000 yards, somewhere around whatever, 25 to 30 touchdowns, somewhere around 85 receptions a season. It's like you start looking at it, it's like those numbers stack up for 10 years. It's like, oh, you look back, maybe it wasn't dominant, but he put together one hell of a career. I'm never going to be able to make sense of them letting go of DJ Moore. Happy day.
Here's a signing that I like, Tony, and I only liked it because I don't know who this guy was before the free agent market. Maybe I should have looked up more, but how offensive linemen are. Sometimes we miss out on some of them, and I'm sorry if I missay his name because I'm not really good with it. But Isaac Simalo has went from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you know how to say that name, Tony? Do you know that name?
I don't. He was the guard for the Eagles.
Yeah, he was a guard. So I don't know if you saw his press conference with the Pittsburgh Steelers. amazing. Loved it. They were talking about him, and he was talking about, yeah, why wouldn't I sign here? It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he was all giddy and ready to go. I just want to go to work, but it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm playing for the Steelers. Like, he was so hyped up to be playing for the Steelers organization. It was just like, it got me hyped up, and I'm not even a Steeler fan. I was just like, I like this guy. And that's the kind of guy I was like, that's the like him and Jamal Williams. Those are the kind of press conferences that you want to see out of players that you sign. You want players to be happy when they show up to your organization. That you want them to be like, yes, I want to play for that team. Don't you? Like, isn't that, don't you get you hyped up seeing that?
1000%. Because I think that sometimes, like, you don't want to be the meme or the joke or whatever on the internet, because you are like let's say that this show rose to the ranks where thousands and thousands of people are watching it every day. If you try to do something where it's like you got to be too cool for school, then it's kind of boring, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
these NFL guys, we get up there and their press conferences aren't really that much fun. Like, listening to Aaron Rodgers talk was not that much fun, Joe, because he's just got to be in control of everything, and he's got to be such like a cool guy. I like it when they get up there and they're super excited. Like, he's jacked. He's like, I'm playing for the Steelers, an organization. I get to wear the same jersey as Mean Joe Green. Maybe he's probably not old enough to go back that far. I get to wear the same jersey as, Rod Woodson. I'm sure he's a football historian. Greg, Lions fan. We talked a lot about the Lions earlier, and we were both excited. Early prediction is that we have the Lions winning the AFC North.
Yeah, and Greg, I don't know how old you are, how long you've been a Lions fan, but is there any Lion player this year that's getting you hyped up? What player are you looking forward to? Like, if you had to go buy a Lions jersey this year, who Charger representative? Tony, talk about my team a little bit, the Raiders. Signed OJ Howard today. OJ Howard coming in, being the replacement for Darren Waller, I guess, but they're also talking about bringing in Austin Hooper in the next couple of days. Raiders making a little bit of moves, nothing major out there today, but they made like 4 or 5 good ones. There you go, Tony. You and Greg have some things in common.
Yeah, Greg sounds like I don't know if he's 28 years old and he's been a fan since birth, or if he like became a fan when he's 10 and he really is more like my age. But yeah, Greg, do you remember the days of Lomas Brown and Mike Utley and Chris Spielman? Like, do you go back that far with the Detroit Lions? Scott Mitchell? I'm not a Lions fan, but my grandfather was. I grew up in Michigan and grew up around many Lions fans.
Joker just got off. He's one of our guys who commented. If you guys are listening on the podcast and don't get to see it visually, but Joker, he commented, just worked the 13-hour shift, get to come off and listen to my boys talk football. And that's what it's all about. That's what I appreciate, because I work long hours too. Tony and Mike know I work long hours, and I look forward to coming in and just talking football and just being able to like clear your head. And that's what, like, a lot of people ask, why do we do this? Why do we do this show? And it's because we want you to clear your mind and get somewhere else and just talk sports and nothing else but sports.
Oh, wow. Greg met Mike Utley. That's pretty wild. Mike Utley had like a really scary neck injury when I was little, and it was kind of one of those things that scared me off of starting football sooner, because I just remember sitting there being like terrified when I saw what happened. Joker, we appreciate you coming through here after a long day. And Joker, just how do you feel about not signing Dalton Schultz? Because I've seen a little bit of news where people are a little disappointed that the Chargers didn't get him. I personally am relieved that they did not sign Dalton Schultz.
Oh yeah, we didn't get into that. That was one of the things that said the Chargers should get Dalton Schultz, and they didn't. But see, I've been reading a lot of things on Chargers Twitter. I don't know why it pops up on my feed, but a lot of stuff where they were like, we need one tight end, and we're one tight end away from being a championship contender.
Joe, nobody said that. No serious person said we're one tight end away from being a serious contender. That is nonsense. Yes.
Mike, you stay away from Darnell Washington, because he has silver and black all written all over him. I actually was going to make a video about that.
I think Darnell Washington is one of those, like, if you're a team that says we need help running the football, that's your guy. Because even though the production wasn't there with catching the ball, everything that they show from him is like how good of a teammate is, how good of a blocker he is. It's I would love for Darnell Washington to be a Charger. Would be fantastic. Him or Mayer, who's also a good blocker, or Kincaid. It really doesn't matter. Chargers are about to ball like crazy this year. Greg met him at a gas station. Yeah, those Lions teams, Greg, were like so much fun when they had Brett Perryman and Herman Moore and Scott Mitchell and Barry Sanders, and it's like you thought they were going to get over the hump, but I just remember learning my grandpa curses watching Lions games. Like that's when I found out that my papu swore a lot because he would sit there and watch Wayne Fonts do the most inexplicable things, and he would just be like, "What's happening?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you brought Mitchell, but my favorite Lions quarterback but I only got I didn't watch the Lions like all the time, but on Thanksgiving Day and stuff. I used to root for Charlie Batch.
Hell yeah, Charlie Batch, Eastern Michigan's finest. Charlie Batch did kind of he just was he it was the Lions. Like I think it was more because when you saw him go to Pittsburgh, like he was actually like a good functioning quarterback. But they had a real run of like the Joey Harringtons. There's another guy in there that I'm blanking on, but they just couldn't quite figure it out. And it was sort of in that Matt Millen era. Chargers are paying the wide receivers and QB a gazillion dollars. Bring us Washington, please, Tom. Yes, I agree. I don't think that they needed to spend any more money on tight end because Gerald Everett is still under contract for a year. You bring back Parham on a nice deal. Trey McKitty's on the roster as a blocker. Go get yourself a rookie in a draft where there's like 15 tight ends that I all think can play. So at least 7 or 8 of them that I would be very excited if the Chargers got in various rounds.
And then Joker's talking about going to Chargers training camp. I don't know. I had a great. I like going, like even if they're not my team, I like going to different training camps, and it was cool to go there and just hang out. But yeah, I'll probably be down there sometime, Joker. We can always hang out if you're down there too.
Yep, I'm going down. I will definitely be down there at least once for Chargers training camp. Probably one by myself and one another time. It was nice. Took the family to the beach after, which was a great time.
You want some more NFL news, Tony? Roger Goodell is working on getting a new contract to extend his commissionership for the NFL. What is he? 64. He's 64 years old. He don't look that old, right?
He doesn't look that old, and also I think Roger Goodell does a much better job than what he gets credit for. Like, imagine how hard his job must be. Now, I think he gets compensated very nicely to deal with all of that shit, which is great. Good for him. But I just think if we're taking money out of it, the job that he has to do is so difficult. Just trying to tiptoe between all of these things, like dealing with the PC culture to keep the fans and the sponsorship and everybody there, but still allowing the game to be some sort of like, throwback to like rugged barbarianness and dealing with owners who are doing this and players who want this and everything. I just think it's a super difficult job. And I don't really have like major complaints about Roger Goodell. I think he's fine.
It's crazy. I mean, I guess it makes me
feel
old. I guess it makes me feel old to think, but I remember Paul Tagliabue, whatever, I can't say his name right now. But I remember him. And now I'm looking, I'm like, Roger Goodell's been the commissioner since 2006. Like, it's getting close to 20 years as Roger Goodell as a commissioner. Like, damn, I'm getting old, Tony. I'm getting pretty damn old.
Yeah, we are getting pretty old. And it happens to me all the time. I was watching a basketball game the other night, and I just saw like Greg Anthony's son playing basketball for the Magic, and I was just like, this is not happening. Like, I remember watching their fathers play whatever sport it was when I was younger, and it's tough. It's tough for me to deal with. But
you got to see Pete Rozelle, right? I mean, that was your guy.
I do not remember Pete. Paul Tagliabue was like the first time that I really knew about a commissioner, because I grew up when like ESPN was just starting to sort of come online, right? So it's like that's when they started getting more in detailed about everything. More coaches, press conferences were covered. It started to become more global than what was local. Because even though I grew up in Michigan, I grew up in Packers country. So all the local stuff was always about Green Bay. That was the complaint from the people from Upper Michigan, was we didn't get enough Michigan sports.
Well, if he could do 30 years as commissioner, I think he'll be the longest commissioner. I think Rozelle did 29 years.
I just think it would be without getting too far into this, I think it would be really tough for them to pivot and switch to a new commissioner right now, because there's just too much stuff that's going on with the other league, with the league currently the way that it is, with them trying to potentially look at expansion over the next 10 years, where like there seems to be real talks about making the league go to 36 teams or something like that, and moving a team into Canada, potentially Mexico, or England, like that. I think that Goodell needs to stay in place to kind of see what's going on, at least see them through one more collective bargaining agreement, like whatever that looks like. But again, it's going to be, to me, he works for the owners. So It's like, if they think he's doing a good job, they'll keep him. If they don't, they'll get somebody in there. But I think he does a nice job of keeping all the shit together.
One thing that, I mean, not to get much off of it, because we don't want to keep going. We can go on this forever. I was reading a couple things about the agents. Agents are pissed off more this year than they have been in the past, and can't wait for the next collective bargaining agreement, because they're getting pissed off at these 1-year deals from these players that have to go out there and prove it. Like the Gardner Johnson deal yesterday with Detroit. A lot of people are pissed off because they feel that his tape speaks for himself, and he should have got more than a 1-year prove-it deal.
Yeah, but so that's the thing, is you're playing in a league where you're an independent contractor essentially, and if you can get somebody to give you more than that, that's great. But like you're not necessarily guaranteed contracts at any other facet in life. And then you want all of this money and guaranteed from these other places, and they're still trying to balance like personality matches. They're trying to balance salary caps. A lot of these teams that are signing it have, like, if the Lions didn't have a big contract for Jared Goff and they had a rookie deal, right? Like, and it'd be interesting to see if the Lions take, more of a project QB like Levis or Anthony Richardson in that top spot early on in the draft. In my estimation, that would be a mistake. But if they did something like that, then it's like there's more things to navigate. And they could get a longer deal, but it might not be top of the market. Like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson might not get the Jesse Bates deal. He might not get anything that touches Derwin James last year or Kevin Byard or whatever. Like, these guys are staples in their organization. They're game-changing players. And it's not that he can't be that, but if he proves that for the Lions, then maybe they do come back around and they say, hey, here's 3 years, whatever it is, 3 years, $42 million.
Even the way they structure contracts nowadays, you want security, here's 4-year deal, but really I'm getting out of it in 1 year anyway. So really it's 1-year deals, 2-year deals anyways, no matter how you look at it. Here's a lot more upfront money anyway. So Johnson could have signed a 3-year deal worth, I don't know, what he signed, $9 million a year. So you make it $27 million, 9 years, 27. But at the end of the first year, I cut you anyways. It turned into a 1-year deal anyways.
Yeah, I do think that's sort of an issue, but to me, I have always said, like, if you wanted to give me a little bit less of a guarantee, but gave me more of an opportunity to make bonuses, because at some point I realized that I just think that more players have to realize that it is, once you make a certain level of money, wouldn't you still want to just make like crazy money, but then be in a winning situation? Like, to me, what's the difference between making 13 million and 11 million somewhere else? If the team that's going to pay you 11 million is going to compete and actually bring you joy in your life? Is that extra $2 million, like, especially if you can do that in a city where there's maybe better taxes, maybe homes are more affordable, like all of those things to me, like I would start looking at what will be the quality of my life playing for this organization and my family's life and everything else, rather than constantly looking around at like, how can I get the biggest amount of money that I can get? Because it's not going to mean anything. Like I would just rather have a career where it's like, oh, I played for a really great organization. I made a ton of money and I don't even remember about the money that I turned down because I made all of this other money.
Well, it's like you, Tony. You could have been on ESPN right now, but you chose to be here on MJT football because you're happier here.
Because I don't want to live in Bristol. I don't want to live in the snow anymore. Like it just doesn't work out for me. Negotiating with Fox. It's been very rigorous. I have many options. Joe, let's wrap.
We're glad to keep you. Mike, I don't know. Mike's calling for Peyton Manning for commissioner in 2031. Mike, we'll have to get you back on here, Mike. Mike, I don't know what Mike's doing right now, but he's too busy for us.
he's big time in us, Mr. TikTok boy. Like he's one of those
drinking his coffee and eating his paninis.
Yeah, meeting with executives about the next viral video he's going to make.
You know what? Or Mike's sitting in his room just like with a big stack of cash. He's like,
look at these suckers. I could see Peyton Manning being a commissioner. I think more so I could see Peyton Manning being the face of an ownership group, though. Like them bringing him on where he's got to stack up his portfolio a little bit more, I think. But I could see Peyton Manning and like just sort of the Manning family in general. Eli, Archie, and Peyton and Coop all going in on a team together, where it's like he acts as the owner, but they're all in it.
Well, Washington's for sale. Mike made a video about Magic Johnson put a bid in for it, or I'm pretty sure he's in with the group because Magic Johnson's a smart dude. And he knows when to make money. So he put in on it in one of Mike's videos on TikTok. If you guys haven't checked that out, check that out. But Tony, I just got a gift from Josh McDaniels that just came to my house right now. And he said to get used to this and start showing this off because this is what the Raiders are going to have at the end of the year. So thanks, Josh.
Oh, okay. Another pie to the face. If the Raiders even make it to the AFC Championship game, there's no Super Bowl in your future right now, Joe. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for MJT.
There's a Super Bowl in Vegas' future.
There is a Super Bowl in Vegas' future. You're right. Vegas will be close to the Super Bowl. Technically, they will be hosting the Super Bowl next year. So there's a Super Bowl in Las Vegas's, but not the Raiders' future. Wrapping it up. Subscribe, share it with a friend. 3 friends always talking football. Well, 3 friends who love talking football, but we're always looking for a 4th. So hit that subscribe button. I messed it up. Let's retake.
Greg, nice to meet Greg, Joker, everybody else who's in here, Pepino. Who else?
I just ignored that. I just ignored those 2. Like if you want to come in,
Khalil Hubbard was a new guy that we had in here. A lot of the new guys, everybody else who was in the comment section, appreciate it. You guys are listening to the podcast. Please come on over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That's all we ask from everybody that listens.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great start to the week. Cheers. Free agency, young people, get out there in the NFL and make all the money you can. We will see you. Well, me and Mike at some point this week will be jumping back on to talk football. We'll see you then.